A very good evening and warm welcome to Breaking Today right here on Switch TV. My name is Lincoln Wambugo. Our sign language interpreter is Michael Maithia. We have a lot prepared for you tonight, but first, let's take a look at the highlights. "38 Form 4 students at Kabarnet High School in Baringo County test positive for COVID-19. Health professionals issue a 7-day strike notice if the government fails to address their demands just a day after 4 doctors succumbed to coronavirus.
Anakuja saa moja. Nimeshamaliza homework, anakuja anaanza kunifanyia hizo vitu.
Tonight on our special feature, we tell you the story of a father from hell. From the sports desk, tonight Harambee Stars play Comoros in the AFCON 2021 qualifier match in Moroni. And on our question of the day, what do you think should be done to protect kids from defilers? Send in your feedback to our SMS 111 444 111. And on to a question of the day, what do you think should be done to protect kids from defilers? Send in your feedback to our SMS 111 444 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Wambugo on all my social media handles. On to the top stories tonight. Amani National Congress party is mourning the death of one of its legislators, Justice Murunga. The Matungu Member of Parliament died on Saturday evening while being rushed to a hospital in Mumias. His death comes a few days after being released from Aga Khan Hospital in Kisumu County. The cause of his death is still unknown, but reports indicate he had breathing difficulties before collapsing in his Kakamega home. Various leaders, including President Uhuru Kenyatta, have led the nation in mourning the death of the Member of Parliament. In his message, President Kenyatta has described the death of Justice Murunga as a tragedy and has offered his condolences to the legislator's family and the nation. Meanwhile, there is a looming strike for all healthcare professionals countrywide if the government fails to look into their demands. This comes barely a day after 4 doctors succumbed to COVID-19 in a day. Majibu Kitsao has the details.
The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers has today issued a 7-day ultimatum to the national government to look into their demands, failure to which they will officially down their tools.
And so we will be demanding that certain measures are put in place within the next 7 days, failure of which we are going to issue a nationwide strike.
The notice comes a few days after similar notice was issued after the union officials complained of not having medical covers. In today's media briefing, the union officials said that the recent deaths of 4 healthcare workers are as a result of failure on the side of the government for exposing them to the virus, refusing to properly protect them, and for failing to cater for their medical bills once they get infected with the virus.
It is worth noting that almost all health workers who have succumbed to COVID-19 belong to the vulnerable group of the elderly, pregnant, and those with pre-existing conditions. These deaths would have been avoided had the government heeded to our advisories and those of the WHO.
They have further urged the government not to risk the lives of vulnerable groups of healthcare professionals who include the aged, pregnant, and those with pre-existing medical conditions.
The issue of the elderly and vulnerable. Have you ever seen soldiers being sent to war who are already sick and who are already old?
Elsewhere, the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union too have placed their blame on the government as they condoled with the families of the fallen doctors. The union chair, Dr. Chibanzi Mwachonda, has further asked the government to employ more doctors into the sector, saying that it is time the government of the day listened to the frontline workers.
In our country, the neglect and working environment has resulted in the loss of now over 30 healthcare workers, 10 of which are senior specialist doctors, and this is a great loss for this country. in this war against COVID-19.
KMPDU has also issued a 21-day notice to the government to intervene, failure to which they will too call for a national strike.
Have today resolved to issue a 21-day strike notice to the government of Kenya. We don't have 49 governments, we have one government headed by a head of state. Employment of 2,000 doctors out of employment and a review of the contract terms for those engaged in COVID-19 to permanent and pensionable.
Now, the healthcare workers have been the frontline soldiers in fighting COVID-19 ever since the first case was reported in the country in March. And now they're saying they're going to down their tools if at all the government doesn't heed to their demands. What does this mean to Kenyans now that the country is still fighting this pandemic? Majibu Kitsao, Switch TV News, Nairobi.
Thank you, Majibu Kitsao, for that story. Meanwhile, 17 deaths have been reported in Narok County as the country battles the second phase of the coronavirus pandemic. According to Narok CCM for Health Morgan Saloma, 389 people have contracted the virus since starting June when the first case of COVID-19 was reported. Meanwhile, today, Kenya has recorded 972 people positive for the virus from a sample size of 6,648 tested in the last 24 hours. Another 20 patients have succumbed to the disease, bringing the fatality to 1,269. Joel Chacha files the report.
Kenya continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic, with cases steadily rising each day. The virus has now hit the Narok GK prisons, with 24 inmates testing positive for COVID-19 out of 200 samples that were taken for testing.
Keep distance, stay at home when you don't have to, to go to public places. You also know that the president has raised the same issues, and he has discouraged, political gatherings, so you don't have to be there.
The county has expressed that the prisons department at the Ministry of Health has set aside an isolation ward for the prisoners due to the security challenges.
Able to set aside one ward where they'll keep all the patients. All of them were asymptomatic, and they are doing well.
In an effort to boost the fight against the pandemic, Philip Nyandieka, the Chief Executive Officer of Tinga East Africa, expressed the company had committed 50 trucks across the country to the most affected counties for the distribution of medical supplies and relief food for a period of 6 months.
Going forward, as a group, we are still committed in our logistics program to give our vehicles on call to the county government and of course other stakeholders as we fight this pandemic.
Elsewhere, 38 Form 4 students at Cabernet High School in Baringo County have tested positive for COVID-19 out of 48 students who were tested last week. Joel Chacha, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Joel Chacha, for that story. Still, on our question of the day, what do you think should be done to protect kids from defilers? Andrew Kero has filed this story.
Moja, nimeshamaliza homework, anakuja anaanza kunifanyia hizo vitu, anatoka job mapema mbele ya mama.
In the week between May 25th and May 1st, Childline Kenya data shows that 52 children were abused. This was the highest weekly figure in the nearly 3 months since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country. In the last week of May, on average, 7 children a day were either physically or sexually abused, married off, neglected, or abandoned. Halima, not a real name, vividly recalls the horrific moments of pain and disgust. At just 10 years, she has been through a lot and witnessed so much of scary happenings in her life. Halima lost her teenage years, assuming the role of an adult sooner than expected. She is a victim of sexual violence in the hands of her stepfather Shem Sibota Mogaka, whom she alleges assaulted her regularly.
Namkataza aski, baka kuna siku alijiforce kwangu, kamwaga damu. Alikuwa ananifanyia usiku akitoka kazi saa 1. alafu kesho yake naenda shule.
According to the 2019 status report on children in the justice system, 60% of the cases taken to court involve sexual offenses.
The year 2019 marked sexual exploitation for her in the hands of the man she called father. Her own biological mother was not ready to listen to her.
Akaambia mama yangu, akainua Biblia akasema Yesu kafanya kitu kama hiyo. Alisema hivyo, akaendelea kunishika matiti, akaendelea hivyo, akaendelea. Hakuna kitu yenye mama alifanya.
Wakakuja wakafika hapa kwa nyumba, katoka kwa barabara nikawapata hapa kwa nyumba. Watoto wakaanza kunielezea. Tulianza kulia sisi wote nyumba mzima hata tukukula.
Halima is not alone in this. Joan, not her real name, and Wilson orphan came to stay with the family in question, found herself in the most unfortunate situation with no one to protect her innocent self from the predator.
Michelle ako hapo na mimi niko hapo. Alafu anaanza kunishika. Sasa siku moja akaniambia kuja bedroom.
Na mtu mwingine ni yatima, hana wazazi. Sasa dadaka akaniambia baba fulani amesema anataka kuchukua huyu ampeleke shule. Tukajiuliza mbona hawezi akamlipia school fees akiwa hapa? Ni lazima aende huko. Akasema hapana, amesema aende ndio yule mwingine ako peke yake kwa nyumba asikue lonely.
The two minors are in standard 5. They claim that the suspect threatened to kill them after they refused to give in to his demands.
Akambia mishi sasa inabidi hadi tuende kwa auntie. Auntie akakuja tukamwingisha bedroom, tukamwelezea kila kitu vile ilikongana tufanye. Alafu asubuhi tukamka tukaenda kwa chief.
Ni kitu ienda mwaka mzima kama anafanya. Huyu mtoto ukiangalia makaratasi amekuwa ni kama mama. Amemharibu kabisa.
But what makes a mother to side with the allegedly defile her husband at the expense of her own child's safety?
Alisema sama limefika, ninaenda tu nichukue vitu zangu, nikae na mtoto wangu, kama mtu anaweza nifanyia hivi nyunya. Sasa hata mimi nashangaa. Ni nini imetokea yenye imefanya mpaka ametenga mtoto wake juu tulikuwa pamoja.
Our efforts to talk to Mudhangari police station could not bear fruits.
That's the problem. Shida ni kwa sababu aliachiliwa na court. That is haki yake, and it is the court who released him. So we the police.
The sad reality and irony of things is protectors turning into molesters. We still hold on to the hope of justice being served. Meanwhile, the journey of healing and reconciliation continues. Andrew Kero, Switch TV at Kawangware in Nairobi.
What a shame. No child should go through what those kids from Kawangware have gone through, especially from their father. From Andrew Kero's story, we derive our question of the day. What do you think should be done to protect kids from defilers? Send in your feedback to our SMS line 111 444 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Ombogo on all my social media handles. From that story now, take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Sweet TV. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has dismissed critics of the BBI report, saying they're misleading Kenyans through propaganda. He dismissed assertions that BBI is rooting for an imperial presidency and expanding the executive will be a burden on Kenyans. Raila was with other Western Kenya leaders, among them Council of Governor Chair Wycliffe Oparanya in Kisumu, to discuss the BBI report.
We are going to launch the signature collection sometimes next week. And once that is done, it's going to be taken to all corners of the country. And people will have opportunity to voluntarily sign that document. And once we have the critical number that's required by the Constitution, it will be handed over to the Electoral Commission for further processing, and then publishing and forwarding to the county assemblies for debate and approval. Once we have got the approval by 24 counties as required mandatorily by the Constitution, it will go to the National Assembly and the Senate. Thereafter, it will go to the people who will democratically express their views about it.
And I can assure you and assure Kenyans that Kenyans have more to benefit from this document. If this document goes through, it has taken care of all stakeholders in this country.
And still on politics, Kiambu County leaders led by Kikuyu Member of Parliament Kimani Ichung'wah and his Limuru counterpart Peter Mwathi now say that this is not time for a referendum yet, while millions of Kenyans are jobless in the midst of a second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. The leaders say that just like everything else has been put on hold to cap the spread of the virus, the referendum too can wait until the country gets on its feet. Speaking at St. Andrew Catholic Church in Rironi, Kiambu County, the leaders have thanked religious leaders for having a sober take on the BBI report.
Kanisa inapaswa itafute vile message ya Mwenyezi Mungu itafikia uongozi wa nchi na wenye nchi kabisa, kwa sababu hiyo ndio message ya Mwenyezi Mungu, lakini pia bila kupaka kanisa ya Mwenyezi Mungu matope.
Na Biblia inasema hakuna mzazi ambaye mtoto akiomba mkate atampea mama. Sisi tunaomba baba wetu wa taifa, Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta. We are asking, when we are pleading and the church has spoken, we are asking for consensus. That is all. Tuzungumze yale mko nayo, mtuambie yale tuko nayo, tuseme na sisi zote tukiwa watu wa Kenya tutembee barabara moja. That is all.
Mkatuuliza kama huu ndio wakati wa kufanya referendum, wakati mamilioni ya watu wamepoteza kazi sababu ya corona, wakati mamilioni ya watoto wetu hawako shuleni, wakati mamilioni ya Wakenya hawana hata chakula manyumbani, na sisi tunataka kuelekeza kwa siasa za migawanyiko ya referendum.
Moving on, mixed reactions from Kenyans have followed in the aftermath of former Prime Minister's statement that the BBI of 1 million target signatures will be collected come tomorrow. The process that is meant to extend to late December has received numerous opinions from Kenyans. John Kutunyi talked to a few Kenyans and filed the following report.
During the launch of the signature collection, sometimes next week.
Even as the collection of BBI signatures kicks off this week, as said by the ODM principal Raila Odinga, some Kenyans are pushing for amendments before it gets to the approval process. Joshua, a communication student, thinks that BBI is a rushed document and has malice written all over it.
It is a good document, but they are rushing to implement it, and that is what makes the entire exercise doubtable.
The youth in the recent weeks have taken to social media platforms to show their dissatisfaction on sections of the BBI report, claiming it is lacking proper consideration and inclusion of the young people.
Kuna corruption. So easy opportunities hatujaona ile attempt ya kuchukua ya kupea vijana kazi.
For some like Ochieng, a book vendor in the CBD, BBI is a tool that is going to enhance peace and cohesion and should be embraced by all Kenyans.
BBI imekuja na imetupatia mwangaza. Mimi kwa maoni yangu kama Ochi na support.
It is evident different Kenyans, different views, but still united by their diversity as the people. According to the BBI frontliner Raila Odinga, BBI signatures will close on December, after which it will go through IEBC for assessment and verification. The referendum is scheduled to take place in April 2021. Reporting for Switch TV, my name is Joan Kutan.
Thank you, John Kutuni. Still on BBI politics, leaders from marginalized communities in the country now want their recommendations included in the BBI report. Led by Korea East Member of Parliament Marwa Kitayama and his Baringo South counterpart Charles Kemuran, the leaders want 70 parliamentary positions that will be created, given to their communities for proper representation in Parliament.
Amendment inapofanywa ya pastoralist communities kwa sababu ya kuingiza mambo yao na tuweze kuwa pale ndani. Amendment inapofanywa na wale ambao ni persons living with disability, nao pia tuwe pale ndani. Amendment inapofanywa ya medics, kwa sababu na wao pia wana maoni yao. Yani all those sector groups ambazo zina maoni tofauti, na sisi minority communities tunasema kwamba na sisi tuwekwe pale ndani, tutoe maoni yetu. Na tukisema minority communities, tumeungana viongozi ambao ni viongozi wa Wakuria, viongozi wa Teso, viongozi wa Sabaot, viongozi wa Ichamus na hao ambao ni James na makabila mengine madogo ambao ndio minorities katika nchi hii. Na tunasema kwamba tusikilizwe, kwa sababu tumefurahia kwamba makabila makubwa yamepata nafasi 5 kubwa. Lakini katika hiyo utakuta kwamba minority communities hatuhitaji nafasi kubwa ya kuwa president, deputy na kadhalika, hatutaki hiyo. Sisi tunatafuta vitu kidogo tu, jinsi ambavyo wale wanapata na sisi tupate county, wale ambao tunataka county, wale wanataka constituency peke yake wapewe, so that tusikosee katika hii mjadala wote huu.
Kwa mfano katika laini ya wale ambao wanaosimamia, kama hiyo opportunity ambayo tumeona ya wajumbe 70 ambao watakuwa nominated kuongezea bunge, katika hiyo hali tungeliomba kwamba serikali wangeangalia na kuweka mikakati kwamba hii wajumbe 70 itasaidia hata nao kabila hao wachache wapate nafasi.
Away from politics, residents of Juja Farm Village in Juja, Kiambu County can now breathe a sigh of relief after well-wishers completed and launched a bridge linking the vast area with Theta Ward after years of sustained movement challenges. Over the years, failure to construct a bridge linking the area to the outside world resulted in stalling of businesses, poor movement, among other challenges that have culminated into the area dragging behind in terms of development.
Women in this area claim that before the completion of this bridge, getting to hospitals for safe delivery was the greatest challenge for them.
Wamama katika hii barabara wamekuwa na shida sana wakienda kujifungua, hata wengine hawakuwa wanafika, wengine hata walikuwa wanajifungulia tu huko, hata watoto saa zingine wanakuwa na complication.
It is also a huge relief for farmers who irrigate their crops using water from the river, as the bridge will now make it easy to transport goods to the market on time.
Saa hii tumefungua biashara kutoka Juja Farm, Masto, Momba, uko kote hakuna haja ya kurudi mpaka Juja ukapage jam. Sasa tuko na njia inaenda mpaka bypass ya Kamakis na bypass ya Roiro na bypass ya Ruai. Nyinyi nyote mnakaribishwa na muweze kupitia hii njia bila wasiwasi.
Residents narrate a heart-wrenching tale of the timber makeshift bridge, which for over 3 decades has been serving as fodder for politicians wooing locals during the electioneering period.
So shida yenye imekuwa ni eti watu wako wanaweza kuvuka, na pia vitu materials za kujenga na kila kitu wamekuwa kizunguka mbali. Pia kumekuwa na mashida za unapata watu ni wagonjwa, lakini hakuna mali wanaweza pitia.
Tulikuwa tunagoja tu maji iende chini ndio tuvuke, lakini kwa sasa naona imekuwa mzuri juu kumekuja msamaria mwema anaitwa JM, ametuundia daraja, hata watoto wetu wanaweza kwenda shule.
The concrete bridge worth 2.5 million will not only serve as a footbridge but also as a drive-through for ease of movements in the area.
The last 30 years hapa hakuna mtu aliweza kuuza shamba. For the last 30 years tangu nikuja hapa, lakini saa hii wakati hii daraja iliundwa, nimeona watu investors wamekuja kuanza kukata mashamba hapa, kwa hivyo it is part ya kufungua hiki kijiji chetu.
The project is expected to spur economic developments in the neglected area, among them construction of key markets, roads, and clean water connectivity.
Now, many thanks for staying with us. My name is Cedric Oronji, and now let's get sporty. Harambee Stars are currently up against Comoros in a crucial Africa Cup of Nations qualifier for the second time in 5 days after their meeting on Wednesday, ending in a 1-1 draw at Kasarani Stadium. Harambee Stars head coach Jacob Ghost Mulee, though, earlier on today was optimistic that his squad will avoid defeat against Island Nation. With Egypt beating Togo 1-0, Kenya will stand a good chance to stay on course in the qualifier campaign. If they get in, they win.
Kipindi cha kwanza, dakika kama 20 za kwanza, mcheza kwa utuzwa, na hizo ndio dakika ambazo tunaangazia kwamba Komoro wasiweze kupata bao la mapema, kwa sababu hiyo itatupatia sisi nguvu na kutupatia hisia kwamba hii mechi iko sawa. Tukiweza kufunga bao la mapema kama vile walivyofanya Nairobi, itatupatia hata motivation zaidi, lakini tunataka wasiweze kupata bao la mapema.
Mechi hii ni muhimu sana kwa sababu bado inaonyesha katika kundi letu iko bado nafasi ya kuongoza, kwa hivyo ni nafasi nzuri bado ya kupigania uongozi.
Just to remind you that Harambee Stars need a win to qualify in today's match, simply because that was earlier on Ghost Mulee's sentiments concerning the same match. The match was supposed to start at exactly 7, but has just started some few minutes ago, and it's at its 4th minute. We do wish Harambee Stars its better results. Now, Lewis Hamilton has claimed the 2020 Formula 1 World Championship at the Turkish Grand Prix with a remarkable win, taking his tally to 7 titles to match Michael Schumacher's record. Hamilton pulled off an unlikely triumph for the 6th time in the grid to seal the 7th title, despite challenging with conditions Sergio Perez finished 2nd and Racing Point to his best career.
With the cars putting for the intermediates, Alex Albon was doing some fine driving as he overtook Hamilton and Vettel on successive laps. Verstappen